Hello and welcome to the African News on Voice of the People Television. I am David Edwin. Before we begin the news, we would urge you to kindly visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending stories. We begin the African News from Ghana, where Ghana Parliament has passed the Medical Trust Fund Bill, popularly known as the Mahama Cares Program, under a certificate of urgency. Presenting the Health Committee's report to the House, Chairman Nawene Mark explained that the bill aims to establish the Ghana Medical Trust Fund. Its purpose is to mobilize resources to finance and support specialized medical care for people with chronic diseases and to manage the fund effectively. He highlighted key challenges in assessing specialized medical care in Ghana, including the concentration of specialist services in urban areas, limited diagnostic equipment, inadequate data systems, and the high cost of treating chronic conditions, costs that often lead to catastrophic household expenses. Nawene Mark pointed out that families with chronic disease patients risk falling into poverty within 5 years of diagnosis. The Minister of Health, Kwabena Minta Akando, was present during the consideration stages and proposed amendments to the bill before its passage. Moving on, Sudan's Health Ministry has reported 1,307 new cholera cases and 18 related deaths over a one-week period, highlighting a worsening public health crisis amid ongoing conflict. In a statement, the ministry said the latest cases were recorded between July the 12th and 18th across 12 of the country's 18 states, bringing the total number of infections since the outbreak began in August 2024 to 91,034, with 2,302 deaths reported in 17 states. The highest number of new infections last week was reported in Tawila, North Darfur, with 519 cases, followed by 236 in Kwazan, Blue Nile State. By comparison, the previous week saw 674 cases and 13 deaths reported between July the 5th and 11th. The cholera outbreak continues to spread as Sudan grapples with a broader collapse in infrastructure fueled by the ongoing conflict between the army and the paramilitary rapid support forces. In a related development, the Gambia has reported its first case of Mpox amid rising infections in several neighboring countries. The Ministry of Health confirmed the detection of the case through routine surveillance and said it is actively conducting contact, tracing, and community engagement to prevent further spread. Mpox, caused by a virus related to smallpox, can be transmitted from infected animals to humans and also spreads between people through close physical contact. First identified in humans in 1970, the disease caused fever, muscle ache, and large boil-like skin lesions and can be fatal. Still on health-related situation and news, Egypt and the World Bank have discussed strengthening cooperation to support the country's economic development, with the bank proposing that Egypt join a new global health initiative. The proposal came during a meeting between Egypt's Minister of Planning, Economic Development and International Cooperation, Rania Al-Mashat, and Stephen Gumbert, the World Bank's Regional Director for Egypt, Yemen, and Djibouti. Gumbert outlined the bank's new Global Health Initiative, which aims to extend basic health coverage to an additional 1.5 billion people in middle and low-income countries. He suggested Egypt's joined as a key participant, highlighting the country's significant progress in health sector reforms, including the implementation of its universal health insurance system, one of the largest social protection projects in the region. Minister Al Mafat stressed the importance of the World Bank as a knowledge partner and highlighted ongoing joint efforts to develop a comprehensive plan for economic development, support microeconomic stability, promote industrial health and growth, attract foreign investment, and boost investment in human capital. As Africa rapidly embraces artificial intelligence to drive innovation and development, experts are raising red flags over the risk of relying on foreign-made AI systems. Tech specialists and data governance advocates warn that many imported AI models designed and trained using data from Western contexts often carry bias that don't reflect African realities, cultures, or languages. These biases, they say, could lead to discrimination, misrepresentation, and unfair outcomes for African users, particularly in critical sectors such as healthcare, education, law enforcement, and finance. At a recent dialogue in Cape Town, South Africa, stakeholders called for urgent action, the creation of locally relevant data governance frameworks. They emphasize the importance of homegrown data collection, community involvement, and transparency in how AI is developed and used across the continent. Several African governments and tech innovators are now being urged to collaborate and invest in AI researches that reflects African languages, social systems, and historical contexts. In another development, Portugal has joined other Western countries in expressing support for Morocco's autonomy proposal for the disputed Western Sahara region. Portuguese Foreign Minister Paulo Rangel described the plan as having a serious and credible basis following a meeting in Lisbon with Morocco's Foreign Minister Nasser Bourita. The long-standing dispute dates back to 1975, with Morocco claiming sovereignty over Western Sahara, while the Algerian-backed Polisario Front seeks independence for the territory. Morocco's autonomy proposal, first presented by King Mohammed VI to the United Nations in 2007, would create a local legislative, executive, and judicial authority elected by Western Sahara's residents. However, Rabat would maintain control over defense, foreign affairs, and religion. France and Spain have also voiced support for the plan, with Madrid in 2022 describing it as the most serious, realistic, and credible framework to resolve the conflict. Moving on, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Mozambique's Foreign Minister Maria Lucas have reaffirmed defensive ties between the two countries. During her visit to Russia, Lucas expressed concerns over the ongoing war in Ukraine, while also praising the resilience of Russian people. She said Mozambique has been closely monitoring the conflict and emphasized the country's desire for a peaceful resolution. Lucas also highlighted the war's impact on food security across Africa. Russia and Mozambique have strengthened their military cooperation in recent years, with Mozambique hiring Russian machineries from the Wagner paramilitary group in 2019 to combat a jihadist insurgency. And in Kenya, a Kenyan man who had been on death row in Saudi Arabia for more than a decade has been released following a lengthy campaign to save him from execution. Kenya's Foreign Affairs Officer, Korea Sengoe, confirmed in a statement that Stephen Monyako was freed under a judicial decree. His mother, veteran journalist Dorothy Kieyu, told local media She rolled on the floor in relief when she heard the news. Munyako had been working in Saudi Arabia when he was convicted of murdering a Yemen colleague in 2011. The crime carried the death penalty, but after years of negotiations, the victim's family agreed to accept blood money. Under Islamic law in Saudi Arabia, a death sentence can be commuted if the victim's family accepts diya, a form of compensation. There are reports also that says that Mozambique's public prosecutor's office has charged opposition politician Venancio Mondlane with 5 crimes linked to the post-election violence that rocked the country in 2024. The charges include incitement to collective disobedience and instigation of terrorism. Mass protests erupted after Mondlane rejected the results of the October 9th presidential election. He had called on his supporters to mobilize following the victory of ruling Mozambique Liberation Front candidate Daniel Chapo, who became the country's 5th president. Mondlane, who enjoyed strong support among young voters, finished a distant second. The protests turned deadly, with at least 400 demonstrators killed and 600 others injured. Earlier this month, legal proceedings were also opened against 31 police officers accused of misconduct during the unrest. And here in West Africa, authorities in Cote d'Ivoire has sentenced a nurse to 3 years in prison for making social media comments deemed offensive towards President Alassane Ouattara. According to the prosecutor's office, the charges are part of a broader crackdown on online misconduct, which officials say is becoming increasingly common. The sentencing comes just months ahead of the country's presidential election set for the end of October. Meanwhile, 6 youth leaders from the main opposition Democratic Party of Cote d'Ivoire have also been arrested since June over a social media post that called for mobilization against the government. Well, joining us now to make sense of this story is Barrister Darlington Agumor, who is Voice of the People TV's in-house political affairs analyst and a legal practitioner here in Nigeria. Barrister, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, David. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing as well, Barrister?
I'm okay.
Also joining us virtually all the way from Egypt is Dr. Asim Abel Hamid Moussa, who is a global chair, ICG Business Community. Dr. Asim is also the author of Cloud of Things books in 2016. He is also a member of the United Nations High Meeting of SDG 2030. Dr. Moussa, thank you so very much for joining. A very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to join you. Thank you for giving me a chance to be with you.
All right. I want to start off with you, and I'm going to start off with the conversation that relates to the artificial intelligence and data gathering that, of course, quite a lot of experts have been talking about. I know you are big on technology and as well as being a major representative in the world body, particularly here in Africa. But let's look at the underlying local content. Given that many foreign AI systems are trained on data that does not practically reflect African cultures or reality, how can we encourage the development of AI solutions to develop more within the African context? And of course, what specific steps can be taken to ensure that AI models are aligned with local values and needs in Africa?
Intelligent question. I really appreciate a lot. Let me say that the technology of the 21st century that will help a lot in poverty, diseases, violence, poor leadership, and to achieve the 17 SDG so important in all sectors, in healthcare, in aviation, in industries. That's why in Africa we have to concentrate about this new technology. For example, artificial intelligence and the helping the technology for the artificial intelligence like IoT, cloud computing, blockchain, that will help a lot. Let me say that I start working this new technology since 2013 as nominated to talk about this new technology in aviation, conference in Egypt. Let me say for Africa, we have to change the concept from passive consumer to active user. That's why, we have, all leaders for Africa, they make a union opinion that we must have our artificial intelligence like ChatGPT or something like that, and we are the one who make input for this artificial intelligence system. That's why it will, compromise with our, culture, our values, our, science. That's why we have to all union to do something good for Africa to make our artificial intelligence system for us. Let me say that this new technology will change the concept from love things and use people to love people and use things. That's why you have to concentrate on with the scientists, leaders, investors in Africa to put our hands together to make our new artificial intelligence system.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your question.
All right, now I'm still going to stay with you before I come to the studio here. There's the conversation surrounding not having enough data and, of course, not being included when it comes to data collection in Africa, which speaks to digital sovereignty and, of course, collaboration. From your perspective, do you think that as it stands, there can be stronger collaboration that should promote a sense of digital sovereignty within the African space, not just using data that is not Africa for Africans when it comes to AI generation?
Yeah. As I told you, we have like scientists in Africa, so, work in Africa or in USA or in other country. We have investors, from Africa, work in Africa or another country. We have, good mind in Africa. We have to use all the resources, from Africa. We can use this resource. We can, ask this expert or ask this scientist or ask this leaders in artificial intelligence or this new technology to come in Africa or to stay, abroad and help Africa. So, like hybrid model can work, inside or can work so online or something like that. So let's collaborate to do something, for Africa, because we have the experts that USA, bring, like expert in AI from Africa. We have investors, we have leaders, we have, good mind, Let me give you, my story that I start working in this new technology 2013 after nominated to speak about this new technology in a big conference for development of aviation. And after that, I do it by myself, by my finance, by my hard work, without, any help. I can, now write a book about this new technology, write articles, go to, conference and also want to speak about this new technology. And I hope that I can transfer, my expert in this new technology to my country, our countries, Africa, and also world. So let's do something, for Africa. That's my point.
All right, then. Let me come to the studio. Barrister, a conversation that is surrounding data collection is what we're talking about here. Interestingly, AI models and technology has come to stay. But the conversation around having models that has data that are not representing Africa by, of course, the people who are having these models, technically, there is the bias. Addressing this bias and inequality, how can we mitigate this, even as a people? Plus, the fact that technology has come to stay, and you will discover that in some of our hospitals across Africa, let's even use Nigeria as a case study, technologically, we're not even getting it right in some of our hospitals. How can we mitigate this together and do better from here on?
That is why African leaders should be very careful. It's not enough to embrace the new technology. We don't want something that will harm us in the name of joining the modern world. This AI, there is more to it. We are not ready for it. So I expect African and African leaders to even go and understudy what we are talking about. That was what China did. If you check, China don't copy Western technology wholesale. They modify it to suit them. That's why that country is making progress. Go and check. Even they have their own internet. They have everything. This social media, they have their own. It's on record. So African leaders should take a cue from China. Don't copy willy-nilly whatever the Western world is giving you. It does not help.
In other words, they should be able to do much more in terms of carrying out their own research with their young people.
Exactly. Where are our scientists? Most of the problems bedeviling us are not Western problem. They are not Western problem. That is why this problem are seen with us, because we look up to the Western world for our medical needs. Look at China. Imagine if China were to depend on the Western world for their medical care. How many? We are talking of a country of over 1.something billion, 1.4. How many drugs are they going to import? That was why they developed acupuncture. We can take care of all their health needs. Imagine, somebody sat down and developed that thing. Somebody sat down. And today, most modern medical doctors, they have combined acupuncture in their medical care. After reading the orthodox medicine, they still go to China to study this because of the efficacy. Why do you think China is multiplying? Why do you think they are growing?
Now, Barrister, you mentioned the scientists, and one thing that comes to mind is there enough funding for researches for the scientists in Africa to carry out even much more development than what we have presently in Africa?
The money that is going into looting and corruption can take care of this thing, David. It can take care of this thing 110%. All African leaders need is to stop and curb corruption. Those money they are using to answer strong men in Africa, they can use it and channel it into these research institutions, knowing fully well that at the end of the day it pays off. It will save us a lot of problem. All the health need that you are going abroad to go and seek for. Imagine if African scientists were given the mandate by their leaders to go and find out what is wrong with this thing. Why are we having this problem? Things like malaria, all those things that are African oriented. Go and look for a solution. But because you are looking after the Western, do you think they want to free you from their medical bondage? No. No, they don't want you to be free. That's why they always depend on them. So these are things that people should realize, because the world is moving on. We are not going backwards again.
All right.
It's not possible. So before you introduce AI in everything we do, please study it properly, whether it suits our environment. It's very important.
Interesting. Well, let's go back to Egypt right now. Dr. Mwasa, again, the conversation about engagement with the community and, of course, the people is quite enormous. But from your perspective, as a UN spokesperson on SDG 30, do you think there is enough engagement on the path of African leaders with her people and even the scientists who are supposed to carefully know how much it would take to carry out these researches and, of course, the technology that we use in Africa these days?
Thank you so much for your questions. I really appreciate a lot. You are right. We need, more engagement for people, in Africa, in a leader. We need representative from every society to participate, in this biggest translation, in technology in all the world. Let me say, for example, there will be replacement of job, from 5 years and 10 years, 15 years, for repetitive job, for routine job, for optimized job. But for complex job or creative job, there is no replacement. That's why, we need to let people, participate, take their decision, and seriously, the leaders should, negotiate with people and know what's the concern, of people, because, in a change management, if you want to change the technology to the newest technology, maybe people against this technology because they know that they will, replace their job. They are, afraid or scared that someone takes their jobs. That's why they are going to fight new technology. For my opinion, we need, this new technology to help people, not to replace people. We need this new technology to help people, in all sectors, not to replace people. That's why we need to let people participate in this biggest translation in technology in all the world. So we have AI could replace and serve us, you for repetitive job, for routine job, for standard jobs, and we have AI could be your tool of assistance in for managers, for scientists, for artists. That's why we have to study this step very carefully, so that we can get better for the AI and get benefit from people at the same time. Thank you for your question.
All right, then. Again, let me come back to the studio. Interestingly, Barrister, doctor in Egypt just, of course, admitted to the fact that truly we need to study some of these technology and not just jump at it, because if we do not have the models and data that are African for Africans, we might just be having some issue. But then we're still going to stay in the space of social media. Interestingly, there's been some conversations about what some would call gagging of the media, and that is about the situation that happened in Cote d'Ivoire, where a particular nurse has been sentenced to prison for a Facebook post that she made against the president, Alcantara. From your perspective, Alassane Alcantara has been a bit, let me use the word, outspoken about the way social media is being used, even across Africa and, of course, the young people. But the fact that this young lady has been sentenced to 3 years in prison for making social media comments deemed offensive towards the president, what's your general overview of this? And looking forward, is there the possibility that there can be some sanity when people go ahead posting things, knowing for a fact that yes, there is freedom of speech, but freedom after speech is not usually guaranteed, because some people don't know the law when you defame people, particularly people of political status?
David, the UN is very particular about this issue. That is why it is embedded in the charter, and every other country has domesticated it. Your fundamental right, because it is a dangerous thing for you to guard people. You now mortgage their freedom of expression, freedom of movement, freedom of association. In our own climb here, if you go to our constitution, section 33 to section 42, all these rights are there. Now, imagine if you have a government you cannot criticize or even advise. That would be a zombie territory. Seriously, because everybody serving the government will not tell the government the truth. Most times, the government will hear the truth from outside. The human rights activists and all that. That is where they even get fillers. So why would you now, shut down that aspect of the society that is very critical to your government? Very critical. Most government may not understand what is going on unless human rights activists maybe lawyers and others to challenge them in court and say no, this is not right, then they will back down. But those who serving the government may not have the guts to tell the government the truth. So this area is very, very important in the administration of a country. So any leader that is against it, that means that leader is failing already.
But Barrister, the prosecutor's office did say that the charges are part of a broader crackdown on online misconduct, which, of course, the officials have said that has become increasingly common in the system.
What is I don't understand. What exactly is against government here? That you are telling the president that you are not doing well. This is what I find wrong in your actions. Is that an insult or what? I don't get it. Most times they don't even know the difference between right and wrong. It is the government that is abusing their own responsibility.
But then, Barrister, in the path of defamation, how do we juxtapose the two?
There is nothing wrong in defamation. It's a civil matter. Go to court. If the president or whoever feels that somebody has defamed him or her, go to court. Then the court will interpret it and know whether actually there is defamation charge here. Not you taking laws into your hand because you have been defamed. Okay, the government that have been defaming people, who takes them to court? Who takes the government to court? So when there is such an infraction, is a simple matter. I'm sure every country has that defamation clause in their laws. So that whenever there is such an infraction, you challenge it in court. You challenge it.
But looking at the fact that, Barrister, this is becoming one too many around Africa, you would recall in Kenya, the young blogger, I'm talking about Alberto Ojwang, who was killed in custody. This same kind of conversation was the reason why he was picked up. He was right. He did wrote something as against the Deputy Inspector General of Police in that country. Now we're talking about Cote d'Ivoire right now. Their election is in October, Barrister. There are conversations around the fact that the clampdown on the opposition big figures, particularly young ones, is one that is set to continue in order to silence opposition, according to some quarters. Is there a possibility that this is what the presidency is doing? Or is truly the social media influence giving the government another international name that they don't want?
Look, you see, this is the more reason why this thing should be challenged in court. This is the human rights community in that country should rise up. They should come to the aid of that nurse to know whether actually this thing is worth it or is it because of election. It's very sad. Look, every other country, both the Western world and Africa, there is always this infraction against leaders and all that. Remember Donald Trump? There was this media house that he had to take to court, and they paid him, I think, $5 million or so for, defamation. He went to court and challenged them, and the court, yes, gave him victory. So it happens. What we are saying is that it is not an opportunity for you to abuse your power. Because you feel you are in authority, you are in power, therefore nobody should talk to you. No. Go to court like every other person and then challenge this thing. The court, you will even get victory that is honorable than using your power. It means that ab initio, there was no issue, no case in what you are pursuing. You just want to use your power to put the person in silence. That is not how these things work, because one day you will get out of that office. You get out of that. So what happened? We should begin to build institutions, please. That's what we are saying in Africa. Let's build institutions. Not to you becoming a strong man that nobody can talk to. Nobody can criticize. You are building a zombie territory.
Again, Barrister, this conversation about opposition and, of course, the ruling government is one too many around Africa. I'll take this other story in Mozambique, where Public Prosecutor's Office has charged opposition politician Venancio Mondlane with 5 crimes linked to the post-election violence that rocked the country in 2024. You would recall that the Daniel Chapo was the one that won the last election. But looking at the fact that this particular conversation is still ongoing, you would recall that this election did happen sometime in October last year. And of course, the opposition leader, Madeleine, did say publicly that his supporters as well should take to the streets to reject the result, which again, according to the government in power, cost the life of over 400 persons in Mozambique. Is there the possibility that the ruling government at the time is not speaking to the heart of the matter, which is election malpractice that Madeleine was identifying, but is talking to the fact that they want to just hang the loss of life to the statement made by Madeleine in Mozambique?
Now, protest is guaranteed, is your right.
After election?
Before or after.
Okay.
You can protest against the injustices of government against you as a person, as a citizen. You can protest. Now, what happens after the protest is a different kettle of fish. What if government instigated that protest, or those people that died, and they are now hanging it on the head of the opposition? Because we have seen it here. When you want to protest, they mobilize their talks against you. And maybe in the process, somebody may die. And they say, yes, it's because you are protesting. So, if the protest is organized, well structured, and maybe along the line, the government now infiltrated the protest to cause mayhem, how can that be the problem of the opposition? The opposition cannot set up to start causing a problem here and there. The only venting their displeasure over what you have done as a government. And I expect you to even mobilize police to guide them in their protests. Yes, that's what you're supposed to do, to guide the protest so that it will not turn violence. But when you, the government, is now the chief culprit here, why would you blame the opposition? Because we all know how these things work out. Why would you blame the opposition?
But Barrister, the charges include incitement to collective disobedience and instigation of terrorism. Isn't that something weighty?
That is, yeah, that is. With instigation of terrorism, what does that mean? All the protesters we are carrying gun, Abi? No, tell me. Do you mean all the protesters we are carrying gun? You can see government can instigate this other side of protest and blame it on the opposition. It's something all of us are aware of. We know that's how they operate. When they want to silence you, the moment you protest, they will now infiltrate it and then use it to clamp down on you and say that you want to overthrow the government.
So, Barrister, if this is now the new scheme
in Africa,
how then should oppositions lend their voice?
They don't want you to talk. David, is a new development in our political dispensation. They don't want you to protest on what they are doing. They want you to remain silent and quiet. That is why when people are blaming some of them in Nigeria here, you don't know what they are going through. The moment you do such a thing now, they will even use their own people to kill people in your midst and say, yes, you have caused mayhem. People died because you are protesting. Therefore, you should be charged to court for murder. And you know how heavy that is. So, these are the issues. And I tell you, it is not helping Africa as a continent. It's not helping our democracy. In fact, these people will continue to do this until all of us we choose the way of Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. I'm not joking. Yes, because there's no more democracy.
What unfortunate, Barrister.
They are looking toward that direction now. That's it. They are looking toward that direction. Because if you're a civilian government and you're acting as a military, what's the difference? Is it not better we choose the military?
Anyways, this is where we have to draw curtain because of time, and we definitely want to say a big thank you to Barrister Darlington Agumo for joining us. Barrister is Voice of the People TV's in-house political affairs analyst, and of course a legal practitioner right here in Nigeria. And we also had joining us virtually Dr. Mwasa Assem, who of course, like I told you earlier, is a global chair, IGC Business Community, also a high-level speaker with the United Nations for WSIS 2015, and also a member of United Nations High Meeting for SDG 2030. I want to say thank you again, gentlemen, for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
The rest of the African news will continue shortly, just after this quick break. Glad to have you back. It is still the African news right here on Voice of the People Television. Now to more stories. President Salva Kiir Mayardit of South Sudan has sworn in 6 newly appointed justices of the Supreme Court, urging them to uphold justice with integrity and help build an independent judiciary during a crucial phase in the country's transition. The swearing-in ceremony held at the State House in Juba marks a significant step for a judiciary that has long faced criticism over delays and allegations of political interference. President Kiir described the appointments as more than career milestones, calling them a renewed expression of trust and commitment to the principles of justice. He also reaffirmed his administration's commitment to strengthening the judiciary and ensuring it operates independently and efficiently. Chief Justice Benjamin Deng echoed the president's remark, stressing the urgent need to restore public confidence in the legal system. He acknowledged that a backlog of unresolved cases has eroded trust and pledged to address it, stating, "Justice delayed is justice denied." The appointments come as South Sudan moves closer to national elections and continues to implement key provisions of the 2018 peace agreement. At least 17 persons have been killed and several others injured in a road accident in the Zimbabwean town of Chitungwiza. Police spokesperson Paul Nyathi confirmed in a statement that the crash involved a haulage truck and a passenger bus near the Miami River Bridge on Seke Road, which links the capital, Harare, to Chitungwiza. He added that the injured passengers have been taken to hospitals and authorities fear the death toll might rise. Elsewhere, desperate rescue efforts are underway in a gold mining area in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where people were using their bare hands and basic tools to free miners trapped underground. 6 miners have been pulled out alive so far, one of them seriously injured after mine shaft collapsed in Lomera in the early hours of Sunday. The area in South Kivu province has been under the control of M23 rebels since they seized large parts of DR Congo's mineral-rich east earlier this year. The M23 group has denied reports that hundreds are still trapped underground. Lomera has seen a gold rush since late last year, when the precious ore was discovered in the nearby hills, transforming what had been a quiet village. The region has long been plagued by conflict, with various rebel groups and government forces battling for control of its rich resources. In another development, Malawi has achieved a major diplomatic milestone, ranking among Africa's top 10 most powerful passports in the Henley Passport Index 2025. With a visa-free score of 73, Malawi is now tied for 8th place with Morocco, overtaking key regional players such as Kenya. This jump highlights Malawi's growing global respect and improved international mobility for its citizens. Kenya, which previously held a higher rank, has slipped to 9th place with visa-free access to 71 countries, while Morocco has climbed to join Malawi in 8th place. You're still watching the African news right here on Voice of the People Television. We'll go on another quick break right now. When we return, stories in business and sports will be up next. Stay with us. Glad to have you back. Now to some business stories. South Africa's competition tribunal has approved France Canal $2 billion takeover for TV broadcaster MultiChoice, subject to certain agreed conditions. The deal represents a major shift in Africa's media's landscape and could reshape the continent's broadcasting history. It also marks a strategic move to compete with global streaming giants like Netflix. For Canal Plus, the acquisition is a key part of its expansion across Africa, especially in English-speaking markets. For MultiChoice, the deal brings vital capital to boost local content production and innovation. The approval comes with a package of public interest commitments agreed upon by both parties. And to wrap up African news, we'll go straight talking sports. Holds Morocco will face Nigeria in a final of the 2024 Women's African Cup of Nations after edging Ghana 4-2 in a penalty shootout at the Olympic Stadium in Rabat. The match ended 1-1 after 90 minutes, with neither side able to find a winner in extra time. The result sees the Atlas Lionesses reach a second consecutive final on home soil as they aim to lift the WAFCON trophy for the first time and stop Nigeria from claiming a record-extending 10th title. The Super Falcons booked their place after a 2-1 win over defending champion South Africa in the other semi-final match. Meanwhile, Ghana will take on South Africa in the third-place playoff on Friday. Still talking sports, President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria has congratulated Nigeria Super Falcons after their dramatic 2-1 victory over South Africa in the semi-finals of the 2024 African Women's Cup of Nations. Describing the win as nothing short of superlative, the president praised the team for their courage, skill, and resilience, calling it a magnificent display of grit, talent, and indomitable Nigerian spirit. In a statement issued shortly after the match, President Tinubu celebrated the Falcons' achievements and urged them to stay focused as they pursue a record-extending 10th WAFCON title. He also assured the team of the full support of Nigerians, both home and abroad. And with that sports story, we've come to the end of African News right here on Voice of the People Television. Do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. On YouTube, we are at Voice of the People TV, and on all other social media platforms, we are at VOP TV Live. Thank you so very much for being a part of this broadcast. I am David Edwin. Do have a good afternoon.